Hi, and welcome to the Tarot Share at Serenity and Soul. We're here in the Town Mall of Westminster, 400 North Center Street in Westminster, Maryland. Yes, we're right next to Eternia Dreams, and we have a lot of awesome events coming up this month. The next class is going to be our essential oil class on Monday, September 9th from 5:30 to 6:30 p.m. We are also having an amazing light language circle on Wednesday, September 11th. If you don't know what light language is, if you are someone who is waking up in the middle of the night, speaking a language that you don't even know, or dreaming about the language, well, this is the language of the soul, and you are not alone. This is a circle where you can come and you can talk about these experiences as we explore what they could possibly mean to human development. Then on Monday, September 16th, we're going to have our Intro to Crystals class at 5:30 p.m. And then on Tuesday, another Tarot Share, and we will be talking about basic astrology in that particular share, which is very fundamental to understanding Tarot and Oracle card symbology. And then on Thursday, September 19th, we're going to have an Activate Your Body to Heal, which is going to show us the wonders of the H2 water and how it can help your cellular regeneration. And then on Thursday, September 26th, we have a Reiki share where everyone gets together and practices their Reiki. We have people from various levels of mastery, and that is going to be at 6 p.m. on Thursday. So that's our event so far for this month. You can visit our Facebook, but you can also visit the link that is in our comments, the www.vigaro.com. It will actually show you what classes we have. We also have tarot readings that are offered here, but you have to book them online. We will not DM you, and we will certainly not solicit you in the comments. And so today's Tarot Share is going to be about how to learn the Tarot in a structured way that actually honors your process. Some of us are more creative than others, and some of us need to basically learn the multiplication tables of the cards. So there are 3 steps, all right, that I think are important. So this is my opinion, and it is shared by a number of people because this is how I kind of arrived at this opinion, but it was also anecdotal, like my experience. So the first step is when you first start learning, you're going to want to do the rote memorization. And we'll talk about that a little more later on, about how you can do that in a way that honors your process, because not everybody is a rote memorization kind of person. The next step is going to be immersing yourself in various spreads. So after you sort of get your handle on what the cards mean, whether it's a flashcard way or a journaling kind of way, then you're going to want to dig deep into spreads. And then the next step is going to be the connecting and application of everything you've learned from the rote memorization, from the intuition, from immersing yourself in the spreads. You're going to start connecting and applying what you have learned and reading for actual people. So that first step of rote memorization, basically what you want to do is you want to go through your deck as many times as you can tolerate, look at the cards, and look at the meanings. You can have like a keyword sheet or something of that sort. Now, I'm not asking you to memorize any of them. What I'm asking you to do is to really look at them and let your subconscious mind pull those images into you so that you start to see it. Like, I like to do it in such a way that I will organize the tarot. I'll get the cards all out of place, and I would sit there and I would memorize the order of it. I would put it into order, but I didn't memorize it, one go and I was done. It was every single time until, and I'm doing this with the runes as well, where it's like Finally, you just intuitively now, I know what the order of the cards are. If you say 13, I know it's death. If you say 17, I know it's the star. If you say it's the 3 of swords, I know it's 3 swords sticking through a heart. It gets to that point, but you got to start somewhere. The other part of it is the intuition aspect of it, where you pick a card a day and you step into the card and you interact with it in an imaginary kind of way. And what happens there is you journal about the card, the symbols that actually appeal to you, the numbers and what they mean. You do a little study and research and put it all together. And that is your tarot journal. So the rote memorization plus the intuitive journaling is part of it. All of that initial stage of getting to know the cards, you want to really start exposing yourself to the cards. Maybe you sit down and you read a book like Benabel Wen's Amazing Holistic Tarot, or maybe Mary Kay Greer's Tarot for Yourself. They all have card meanings in them. And you just continue consistently to expose yourself to the images, to the meanings, the traditional meanings. Same thing with oracle cards. If it has a book, you're going to want to sit there with that book and you're going to go through each card. The minute you get a deck and it has a book, you sit down with it and you go through each card and you read the book. That should be the fun thing that you do when you get a new deck. All right? Also, you want to study from various sources. I already named 2 sources that are really good. There's another, the Thoth deck, especially Lon Milo DuQuette's version of the book that explains what Aleister Crowley really meant when he put together his initiatory deck. And then there are a couple other Golden Dawn people who had some really interesting books. I'm trying to remember the name of the guy off the top of my head, but I might drop it in the comments. But there are a lot of good books about the tarot. And of course, the oracle decks come with their own books because they are sort of out of sequence. They're not the same thing as the tarot, but they use a lot of the symbology. They'll use mythology and things of that sort, which is another thing you want to study. Mythology, numerology, astrology, all of those things, like widen the net. So the next step is going to be spread immersion, right? And spread immersion, when I talk about that, it's talking about learning what the spreads are, what each card means within that spread until you don't have to really think about it. Like I'll lay out a Celtic cross and I know automatically I'm just reading the cards in their sequence, right? And it's telling me a story, but it's because I had to sit there and I had to figure out which each of those cards meant and how I was going to, even the way that I laid them had to be figured out. And that was part of the spread immersion that my mother taught me. She would sit me down and she'd be like, okay, these 3 cards, all right? Now this card means past, this means present, this means future. But if you put them this way, it means the foundation, the obstacle, or the thing helping you, and the guidance, right? And then in internal experience, external events, and what you really expected was going to happen, and then what actually did happen. So you go through all of this memorization of it, and there's books on just tarot spreads, right? You can get one of those books and just start, testing yourself. Okay, what does this card mean? What does that card mean? What does this card mean? Until your subconscious mind sort of collects that information. And what's going to happen is you're basically filling the cauldron of your subconscious mind with all of this information. It's the rote memorization, the intuitive, forays into the tarot, figuring out the spreads and spatial alignment. And all of a sudden, one day, it's like you start doing a reading and you're like, oh, this makes sense, right? Or I don't have to go to my book. Like I'm getting to the point where I'm having readings where it's not even the same interpretation as what's in the book, but I know exactly what it means. So it's a process. So when you first start reading, maybe like sit an aspect of yourself down. Like maybe I'd sit Maury down and I'd say to her, okay, you're my warrior complex, so we're going to do a reading for you. It's not for me, it's for an aspect of me, right? Because you kind of want to get into the fictional area, but you know this aspect of yourself really well. And you know probably how it's going to respond to things. So it's going to be easier for you to read. And so you set the 3-card spread down and you start doing, okay, so, you know, Maury's had this experience in the past. This is how she's reacting to it in the present. And this is what's going to result from her normal response to that in the future. And then just sort of write that down and see if that's kind of the experience that you have. Reading for yourself and using the book is a really great way for you to sort of like keep tabs on associating experience with what the cards are saying, all right? Because the cards can have multiple meanings depending on where they actually sit in the spread, the type of question that you're asking, and whether or not you're being honest with yourself. So the cards are really just the game for you to learn how to like figure yourself out and get in touch with your subconscious. I actually had a reading that I did for myself last weekend, and my higher self came through and basically told me what for. And it was a very uncomfortable experience. I don't think I've ever experienced a reading quite like that before, where it was just excruciatingly honest. So the spread immersion, you know, and getting into that and being consistent with that is also going to make you better at reading these cards. All right, so you read for a fictional character, say your scholar, your lover, or your warrior aspect, but here is also where you discover how you ritually prepare your cards for reading. All right, so in a game, what you have is you have a set of gameplay rules, and tarot is absolutely the same. All right, how you shuffle them, or you know, if you're rolling dice, what each of those rolls mean, how you want the other person to handle the cards, what spread you're going to use. All of these things are set up during the spread immersion time, where you learn how you want to prepare your subconscious mind and your conscious self for the reading, okay? Because it is about that, you know. In Monopoly, people have a particular way that they play. There are family rules, right? And this is more along those lines of, yeah, you got these rules over here that the game came with, but in tarot, everything is personalized. So you're going to take it and you're going to put your family rules on top of that, and you're going to make sure that everybody follows those set of rules, even though they may follow a different set of rules when they're read by other people. Once you feel comfortable, you have your ritual going and everything, then you can start reading for people outside of yourself if you feel comfortable. If you feel comfortable before that, you know, because everyone's different, go ahead and read for your friends. But you should always put a caveat in there of, you know, I'm learning this, and, you know, this is a game, in the sense of when you actually sit down with clients eventually, you're going to play that game with them where you say the cards mean this, 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 and this, and you'll watch the person, and you'll see that there's tells when you're talking about what the cards are actually saying. And if you have pattern recognition, you know, which is what I think psychic ability is, a pattern recognition, and you see the tells and you're like, okay, that for me, and oh yeah, there it is, and a picture comes together, and I'll say, okay, this is what it looks like now, and they'll be like, that's exactly it. That's kind of scary. So that spread immersion is going to prepare you for making all of these associations, right? Then what happens is, as you become more aware of how you're reading, what the cards mean, you're going to be able to start creating your own spreads. And I actually have a 15-card spread that I created for myself that I do once a week. It tells me about my external rhythms, my external experience, the archetypes at play, my internal experience, as well as my internal rhythms, right? And so I get this like snapshot of the week coming up, And it has been extraordinarily and scarily accurate, to the point of when the tower came up, I thought I was going to, faint right there on the spot, sitting at the table looking at the cards. So when you start doing that, then you know that you're sort of wading into the territory of really making the tarot and your oracle cards your own. And then, of course, you want to start really getting into the cross disciplines, such as astrology. You might take on a second discipline, or you may want to add Reiki into it, because tarot as a game is not meant to be played as a standalone. It can be, but it's richer when you have symbology, mythology, cross-cultural understanding. So tarot really is sort of the scholar's way of investigating themselves, but it is also the creative's way to do it as well. So it appeals to a wide cross-section of people. Also, by this time, when you're getting into connection and application, you should be using the tarot on a regular basis. It should be something that, like, not your go-to of I'm upset. You never want to come at the tarot when you're upset. You want to get over your upset, and then you want to come to the tarot with the mindset of I need answers, and I need suggestions, and I need a way out. But never in panic, never in upset. It's like, you never want to make a decision when you are in your emotions. You don't want to read the tarot when you're in your emotions. All right. Even if you have a client who's really, like upset, you got to get them calmed down, because you don't want all of that leaking into the cards, because that is sort of like an extreme thing, and it won't give you the balanced perspective that you're looking for. So I use tarot for myself. I read for myself on a regular basis, and I use it as my sort of celestial positioning system. It kind of gives me an idea of where I am spiritually in everything, in my growth and my development, and it gives me a way to move through things in a loving and balanced way, because now, instead of immediately jumping into it, I step back and I go, okay, well, let's take a look. We're feeling a little confused. We need some clarity. We're not in our emotions. Let's go ahead and put down some cards to see what's going on. And it's so ritualized that it actually prevents emotion overload from happening. It will address the emotion, but it can't, sort of burn through the reading. So that's the whole point of that spread immersion, is creating those rituals around it so that it is an excellent container for your ability to play the game, read the cards, and tell the story. So to recap, the 3 steps are rote memorization and intuitive learning, okay? The second one is that spread immersion, right? Learning all the different spreads. And then the third step is connection and application, and making tarot an everyday part of your life. I actually think in tarot cards when I look at a situation. Oh yeah, that reminds me of, the Emperor, or oh, that's a Chariot moment. They're right there. So if this is something that really inspires you, it's a great self-development tool, and it is easy to learn. It just requires consistent application and a desire to learn. So that is this week's, or this bi-weekly, tarot share. We will be having the next one, I think. I always close it up. We're going to have the next one on the 17th, and we're going to go over basic astrology that is important for the tarot. And of course, we have plenty of events. The link is in the comments, www.vigaro.com. At Serenity and Soul classes. And if you take a look there, you will see all of our offerings, and we really look forward to seeing you. Come visit our metaphysical shop. And we'll also be at the Holistic Wellness Fair that's being held here at the mall on September 28th and 29th. So come visit us there at Mystic Zen. And namaste. Thank you. Thank you.